What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 20 of Spoiler Alerts. There we are. I'm ChanManV, and joined today, of course, by Ellohime, and Eat My Diction is back from PAX.
Hello.
What's up? And we've actually got a guest today. We've got a guest.
I know, right?
Yeah, Danotage. What's up, man?
Hello, how's it going?
Good, man. Love the stash, dude.
Thanks.
Exactly.
There was a
Style
cavalcade of good mustaches at PAX East this year.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was
there?
a few.
I mean, well, Zach from St. Jude was there, of course. He's got the twirly mustache.
Zach
it's really
is
good.
Insane.
I forget his name. Because I meet so many people, but there's one dude with like very dark hair, tall, and he's got the bushiest fucking mustache I've ever seen in my entire life. And every time I see him, I'm like, dude, don't ever shave that. Like,
His
that
name's
is the most amazing
Sequisha.
mustache.
His name's Sequisha. He's the best.
Okay.
Is that really
He has
his
an amazing
name?
mustache.
Yeah, his name is Sequisha.
Wow.
It's great.
Yes, never change your name either.
Hold on. His name is Sequisha.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not going to ask any more questions. We're just going to leave that where it is.
People are wondering why there's no. This isn't the Power Rangers. It's like, what are you talking about? We've got the blue Power Ranger on the right. We've got the red Power Ranger there.
Oh, I'm the
Hello.
Black Ranger.
You're the
You're
Black
usually the
Ranger.
White
Yes.
Ranger. Yes, you're the Black Ranger. I'm
why is
the Aqua Ranger, I guess. I don't know.
Aquamarine Ranger.
Aquamarine Ranger.
You're the Ranger from a further season that has come back to warn us.
I'm the Bizarro one,
No,
the
he's
one that
he's the
they
Beetleborg.
pretend.
He's the Beetleborg.
The Beetleborg.
The beautiful.
Big Bang Beetleborgs. with the guy who looked like Jay Leno.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh yeah, I gotta Google that now. Shit.
Oh, God, that's true.
God damn it,
Oh,
man.
my God.
Oh,
That's
Lordy.
awesome.
So I asked you before the show, but how was PAX East?
It was
was-
good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cold. Very cold.
Oh my god. Yeah, I was gonna call it
Crazy cold.
BlizzardCon for a second. It was damn cold.
Was Stella part of that, or was Stella like somewhere else entirely? I don't keep up with blizzards, but there's a blizzard, right? Named Stella. Didn't it come through?
It was like the day after everyone left. It was on Tuesday. And
Why is
but it was
everyone
like- it
laughing
was-
like I'm a fucking idiot? Is this
no,
Because
you're
I have no idea what
correct. You
you're
are
talking
totally
about.
correct. But
okay.
a bunch
I'm in
of
Florida.
people
I
that
know.
were a bunch of people that were flying, like connecting flights to New York, all their planes got canceled on Monday. So they were stuck there for an extra like
Oh,
2 days or something.
Damn.
I left early on Sunday. I left like a late afternoon on Sunday, and our plane was 2 hours late to leave. So when I landed in Dallas Fort Worth for my connection, my plane had already left. So I stayed there for 8 hours and then
Oh
went home.
god, that
Oh my
sucks.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
I was lucky enough that Virgin has direct flights from Boston to San Francisco.
Nice.
Was that the
Yeah,
first?
so-
I mean, was that the coldest PAX? I mean, does it ever?
No, the one 2 years ago
was it?
was during
I
that
missed that.
blizzard that like took out the East Coast.
Oh, jeez. I
So
missed
there
that
was
one.
like snow on the side of the roads piled like 5 feet high and shit. Like it was obnoxiously cold, and the traffic was worse than it normally is, which is already bad.
Okay, well,
I don't know about any of that. I live in
Isn't
Florida.
Boston just sucks? Fuck Boston.
Exactly, me too.
It's like, man,
We're
that
like,
sounds
yeah.
shitty.
It's
We
real
don't
cold.
get any of that in Florida.
It's like 60
Where
You
degrees
get
here. and it's
rain
cold.
every 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. We get like hurricanes
You
and,
get-
and like
Yeah, you get
hail.
typhoons and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
typhoons.
All right, well,
Yeah.
today, guys, those of you that have never watched Spoiler Alerts, what we do is we review movies, TV shows, comic books, animes, anything. But this week it's a movie, and we're going to be reviewing Logan. So if you don't want Logan spoiled, don't want to hear anything about it, you haven't seen it yet, then you should just mute us. Just
Get
watch
the
our
fuck
pretty
out.
faces. No, don't get the fuck out. Just mute us and just watch our pretty faces and our mouths
Yes,
moving.
look at our faces,
Yes,
dude.
yes. So yeah, we're gonna be diving in, just going in depth, and having Dano here is pretty awesome to be able to do that. But Ello, yeah, you want to sum up the movie for us, or at least to kick things off?
Opening scene, Logan. Old man. I'll just give you a play.
Quotes.
But we see a pan shot of the night sky. Basically, it is a different timeline. If I'm not mistaken, it's in like an alternate reality X-Men. So it doesn't really fall in line with the other universes, such as the ones that we're familiar with, like whatever the fuck it's all called.
It's like
the new movies that have come out. It has nothing to do with those movies.
Since like Days of Future Past or like
Days of
Days
Future
of Future
Past.
Past
Yeah,
is just like a new
that timeline or whatever.
So in this timeline, things are kind of changed. Mutants are very suppressed and oppressed. They're taken advantage of. They're abused. There are all sorts of fucked up shit happening. But anyways, Logan is growing older. He is showing signs of wear and tear because of the adamantium in his body. And it's basically a story about him taking care of old man Professor X, and in the process running into a kind of the new breed of X-Men and mutants coming up, which is his quote unquote daughter through genetics. She was created, and she has very many similar powers to Wolverine. And it's kind of the story is basically about helping them escape this kind of mercenary government entity, and in the process finding love for each other.
the feels.
Is that pretty
The
good? I mean,
feels.
is that right?
That was good. Well, you missed one part. You missed the beginning, which was like the most important part, which was, Deadpool was actually in the very beginning. And
yeah.
Somebody in chat reminded me of that. That trailer was awesome. No,
The trailer
overall,
That was
great.
pretty good.
It's like so fucked up,
It was like
man.
a skit. Yeah, it was so fun.
I went to see it. So I went to see Logan with my son, and he was laughing uncontrollably during the
Oh my
Deadpool
God.
full preview.
I wasn't prepared to see Ryan Reynolds' ass for so long on screen.
Oh my God, it was like
glass.
15 full seconds of just his bare ass pressed against the glass. It was so good.
If you've got Ryan Reynolds' ass, you don't do anything but show that shit off.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
You
Very
find
true.
every opportunity to
Best
show
trailer.
that ass won't
ever.
always be there. It's a national treasure, man. We gotta appreciate it while it's
Yeah.
around. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess typically we usually start off with the things we don't like. I want to do that for this because I feel like if we just get the bad shit out of the way right off the bat, like maybe all these nerds that watch the podcast won't get so mad at us if we say things about it, because I feel like particularly for this, there's like a lot of love for Logan, and if you say it like that, I feel like there's like like it'll trigger some people. So let's just get that. Let's just rip this Band-Aid off now.
All
Some of
right.
the things that we didn't like.
Okay,
I didn't. It wasn't like a thing that I didn't like. It was just like a thing that I kind of I've seen before, and that was like the whole plot of the government trying to control mutants. I feel has been done before, but thankfully it's like not. They don't spend a lot of time focusing on that plot line, or the main arc, whatever. It's mostly about Logan and his journey and stuff like that. That just like that part, I was just like, oh, okay, so they're trying to control mutants. All right, all right, cool, whatever.
But were they okay? So this was kind of confusing for me. Were they the government or were they a mercenary group?
I think they were a company. I think they were
they were a company. Yeah.
like a government-funded corporation or something. Like that.
I was gonna say there was definitely some corruption going on, because even though it was totally private, but somebody was giving them a ton of money and nobody was fighting them. It was all the only people fighting them was people inside of it.
Yeah, I was kind of confused. I guess I felt it was more of a mercenary thing, but I think you're right. I think it was like a government-backed, whatever. Anyways, I agree with you. I mean, but like, I don't know who else is like the ultimate enemy, of the X-Men. I mean, I guess you could have had like Magneto.
Magneto comes back as a decrepit skeleton. I will control your adamantium again.
He's flying around in a wheelchair because he's metal and he can control it. But like okay, so let me ask you this: if what else could it have been? Like did you have any ideas of what else you would have wanted to see, or were you just you didn't really have an answer? You're just kind of bored with the same old.
Yeah, I mean, it was enough for me to be like, okay, I've seen this before, but I was like, it's whatever, because everything else is so good and so unique for a superhero movie that it didn't bug me. It was just something I was like it was like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, whatever.
Yeah, I think honestly we're trying to find things that were wrong because of how many things were so good in this movie.
Yeah.
There were, I don't know. There was like a Chan. What
I might be probably the one person that has a little bit more criticism than the rest of you guys, because I mean, for me, the feels at the end, like I kind of knew there was gonna be feels at the end, just generally, just
Who cried? Raise your hand.
Right? Well, see, that's the thing. I expected
cried
to
a
cry.
little
See,
bit.
I'm a total crier, dude.
up,
Okay, normally in movies, when it comes to like kids and things like that, total crier, man. That usually pulls on my heartstrings like a big time. But for some reason, it didn't quite get there for me with Logan. I don't know why. I mean, I think a lot of the scenes were done right, but it just didn't reach that point. And I think it had something to do with, what was her name? Laura? Laura was the kid, right?
Yeah.
Laura, I think the fact that she didn't speak English, like I think it really hurt at least the connection with Logan for me. Like I didn't really quite feel it. They did a good job of just not having a language barrier and creating that ambience, but it just wasn't like to that next level where I felt very attached to their relationship. So I don't know. That was I know I'm like one of the few people because a lot of people like loved that and I did like
agree.
Okay,
I agree.
Okay.
No,
Cool.
I totally agree with you. Like I don't know. I get that they at the end, kind of reconciled a little bit, but I never felt like there was that true father-daughter moment. I never felt, and the one that they presented, or as close as they did to presenting it, didn't really hit home with me at all. And it was kind of strange because I felt like they didn't communicate enough.
Yeah.
And I also felt like at the end when he went back, like it was never clear that he like just went back for her or if he went back for all the kids. It wasn't like you see him, he gets all pumped up from the serum or whatever, and runs in, does his Wolverine thing. But once he dies, he never really says anything like I came back for you, or like I love you.
I
think it's like it was just kind
I
of
love if you would have said
that would have been
just
honestly that would have been a weird
not,
Logan moment.
yeah,
I think that her
would not
saying
have been
"daddy" was like the emotional moment for me. Like
I would have liked
that
to.
hit,
I didn't have to be that far. Like I love you, but like I don't know something. I don't know. I agree with you, Chan. I just felt like there was something missing in the dynamic of their relationship that I felt unfulfilled.
The moment, that climactic moment, I think was done fine. I think all the characters, Hugh Jackman and whoever played Laura, I think they did a great job in that moment. It's just the lead up to it, just didn't have anything, and it had a lot to do with she's talking Spanish. And he's kind of just talking to himself, from my standpoint in a way. And
he just orders her around for most of the movie.
Yeah, so it really lacked there. And it's not the actor's fault. It was more just how it was designed and written.
Yeah, I think Hugh Jackman really got a connection with obviously Wolverine's been playing him for forever. So he got a good way to say, well, I'm going to act with my eyes because Wolverine wouldn't really say too much. But at the same time, so like you're saying, I think movies these days have really bad third act problems. And that, like you said, the lead up was a bit rough, but the execution of actually the emotional moment was, I thought, really good.
Here's another thing too that I thought about. I think I would have probably appreciated it more if we saw more this is gonna maybe sound a little silly to you guys, but just try to bear with me. If we saw more of the relationship between them in almost sort of a feral way, almost like a wolf pack would raise their young, you have your typical, parents, but like Wolverine's not going to be a typical parent and she's not going to be a typical child. They have a special relationship. They have senses. They have, that's why they call him the Wolverine and stuff. He's got kind of a rage to him, and so does she. So I would have liked to see more like almost like a rearing, of the child, like when she's out of line, like maybe he maybe bats her or something, and not like hits a child, but you know what I mean, like just kind of like gives her like a little, gives her like a little nudge, like this is like almost like an alpha would, like get in line, this isn't how you do things. I kind of wish I saw a little bit of that dynamic between them manifest in some way. It didn't have to be that specifically, but maybe more snarling at each other, maybe more, that kind of resistance, but falling in line,
It was tough to do that because I feel like the way they presented him was, he was just so much weaker, right? I mean, they established it right in the beginning that he is not the Wolverine that we know, and there's obviously something wrong with him, but he does have that every once in a while where he can just like draw up the rage and just be the Wolverine that we all know. Like she always seemed just more powerful than him, like the entire time. So it was hard to have that mentoring, that I think what you're looking for there. Yeah, that kind of.
I think what Ello said actually kind of happened, but I think it happened too early when they were fighting over the backpack and they were just they were just going at it and they never stopped. But I think it happened too early, which is why I think if they did that again later on, it would have, I think, fixed the problem that Elo had.
Yeah,
Good point.
maybe. The only other thing that I didn't like, the only other thing I didn't like was the family, the fucking family scene. Like,
Brutal.
Yeah.
Now, okay, this is what I'll say. The end almost to me justifies the means. I like the ending part where after everything is said and done, the dad's there and he's got the shotgun. He's looking at Wolverine and, pulls the trigger. It's like, damn, you're my enemy. Like you killed my family. This is your fault and you know it. And if he were to have taken that shotgun blast, arguably that would have been it for him because he was already pretty fucked up from the fight before.
Yeah.
So I did like that because it wasn't your typical scene. Like in a typical movie, he would have pulled it out. They would have stared at each other and him been like, just get out of here, like that kind of thing. But the fact that he actually pulled the trigger, it wasn't there. And it was like, damn, it was a very powerful moment. But I have to say that whole fucking scene until that point really bothered me. It seemed completely uncharacteristic of Professor X, completely uncharacteristic of Wolverine, even though there was a lot of apathy and degradation with Wolverine and his character wasn't there. He was always still protecting people, like in a sense, at least, he may have not wanted to get involved in, but he's not going to let somebody die next to him who's an innocent if they're there, and they both had to have known, especially when they talk about their past and their history and how bad everything was and everything. They have to understand that by going with that family, that they ultimately doomed them. Absolutely fucking doomed them.
What's funny is I actually don't mind it. I mean, I do think that it seemed a little bit pointless, just have that family die and whatnot. But then again, it kind of showed you how different Dr. X was. Like he became
I feel like if he didn't do that, then I wouldn't have been
happen. There's no way.
I felt that it was shocking, but it worked for me.
I don't know,
man. They finally found a way to build a Wolverine weapon that they can control, and he's merciless and will do whatever the fuck they want.
Well, not just that, it just showed you how broken down Dr. X was at that point, and he was a different person completely, and it had a lot to do with being tortured in a way. Obviously, Logan was doing it for a purpose to protect the world from him, but
him from himself.
Yeah, him from himself too. But he was being, tortured like a caged animal, basically, and having him be brought down to this point, where Dr. X is even willing to do something selfish for himself just to have one nice dinner, a nice night. I don't know. That had some impact for me. I think
be a human being, act like a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Could anybody tell from that happy moment that something bad was going to happen almost immediately
course.
after?
I feel like there was some foreshadowing.
Yeah. But here's what I'm saying is I think there's better ways to convey that message. The message that Professor X wanted to convey was that this is what we're fighting for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that mutants can have a normal, healthy, a family and upbringing in life, in general. And it's such a counter to what happens and the danger that they put them in that it's hard for me to register and take it seriously without criticism. So, and then I think there's got to be better ways to still get that message across, but not necessarily have this family have to get slaughtered in the process. And is the message as important as the lives of this entire family? Is it that really that important? I don't know. And I think that was probably the weakest part of the movie. And I'm not going to say that it was bad because the ends I feel pretty closely justified the means, but it still bothered me, this whole little middle, like Dan said, like act 3 kind of thing. It got a little slow, and then it got weird and uncharacteristic.
It got way too fast. It got slow and then way too fast.
Yeah. There's a pacing, I think, and that's another thing. I think there's a small pacing issue with the film as well. I think it drags a bit in the middle. Just a bit.
I wouldn't say it drags. I because it's a character drama first, action movie second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and they make that pretty clear. Even though it starts with a pretty badass action sequence, it's very. I feel like it's deliberately paced. James Mangold said, this is his cut. This is the director's cut. This is what he wanted. He had full control over the edit and everything. So this is how he wanted it to be. So And he's, you know, for the most part, he's a really talented director, and I like most of his movies. So I feel like that's what he intended. Then like it didn't faze me. Like I feel like it slowed down for a reason. Like the dinner scene was a good way to slow it down and give the audience a breath and the characters a breath of like interact in a way that wasn't just him being angry and pissed off the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the movie, you know, when all the soldiers are chasing them, why couldn't they just fight back? I mean, you know, Laura literally could have taken out 20 of those, 30 of those guys, right? So what were those other mutants doing? They were just like running away and just getting caught and just
they weren't as vicious as her. Like she's more of a predatory instinct because she's Wolverine's kid,
So
you know. The rest of them, they have cool powers, but they're not trained. They're kids. Like they were stuck in a lab for all their lives.
Right.
Yeah, but
well, she was also 23.
They were trained though, right? I mean,
but they were all inferior to X-23, and they were all trying to be weapons, but they all were technically failures until Laura was born and actually created.
I don't know. I guess my thing in that kind of point, ChanManV, I found it was so strange that Wolverine decided to use a gun. It was weird. Like he shoots things, so the guy gets out there, right? And he's all like, yes, this is my story, and let me tell you about it. This is what I did, and then boom, he gets shot in the head. And I like that. I like that
too, because he says earlier, they foreshadow that he says, I don't like guns. But like I don't use guns.
But he said that several times and never used guns.
Like, he knows he's gonna die. He knows it's the only way that he can fucking win. So he just like, fuck it. Boom. Yeah, sure. I thought that was awesome.
It was weird though that he never grabbed a gun before that or used a gun before that. Like when he was running around in the forest and he's jumping from one guy and clawing this guy and that guy, you know, why wasn't it like turn this guy around and grab his gun and take out a flank here?
It wouldn't have been as powerful a moment if he was just using guns left and right.
I know, but it's so weird. It's so weird to like pick and choose like that.
It's not weird. It's not weird at all.
It is weird.
It's not weird. You're dumb. You're being
dumb. No, it's super weird.
You're being wrong again, Ello.
It's super weird, man.
But you know he could. He's been through Vietnam.
I know. He definitely
has used guns before.
He's used guns before. It's not like forever he hasn't.
I think he swore off them after like whatever the last war is that he fought in.
Yeah, probably.
So like I don't know. I just felt like if he was gonna break his guns rule, he might have picked a better weapon, like a little ass Glock. There's fucking like AKs around and shit. And he's like,
it worked, didn't it? He's dead.
It worked, but you know, like maybe if he would have grabbed one of their like SMGs, maybe he'd still be alive. You know, like who knows if he's gonna break the rule.
Yeah, he did throw it, right? Like I know he took a shot and then he did throw it. Did he have any more rounds in it, or did he just throw it because it's cool?
I think he ran out. I think it was empty.
All right.
Yeah, when he.
I knew he was gonna throw it at some point.
He's like, he pulled the trigger a few times and stopped shooting.
Yeah, I was like, wait, is he done? Is it all gone? I'm sure. What's going on?
I think go ahead, Ella.
No, I was just gonna say I like the abrupt end to the, you know, like the typical villain monologue, right? Like I love that. Like I love that. Good. It just felt weird to me. It's like oh yeah. He's not like Batman where he has like a strict no gun rule, right? Yeah. Like Wolverine has always kind of been like, I don't like them, you know? So it's like when he pulls out the gun, it's almost like a brain, like your brain doesn't know how to wrap your head around it. Like, you're like, what? Like, wait. It was like, it took me to say like a couple scenes went by and I went, he blew that guy's head off with a gun. Anywho. No, I those were pretty much the critiques that I had. And I mean, that again, these are honestly very small criticisms compared to. I think the film is actually very, very, very fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the last thing I have, just like a tiny bit, was that I still wasn't clear as to what killed them, you know, and what didn't, because you know, that last scene, you know, obviously he dies and he gets, you know, skewered by the bad Wolverine in the log at the end. But man, their first fight, you know, at the family house, he was just annihilating him there. So I'm surprised he even survived that. So I wasn't clear as to how they die.
Well, no, didn't they? They said that the serum,
the mutagen
if he used too much of that, like he pumped himself with the full bottle. So I feel like that had an effect.
So basically, he
it
just
helps
his
him,
powers
it helps
just
his
stop.
healing.
Yeah.
It helps his healing power.
But he
which I think
overdosed
that's-
on it.
But
Essentially,
yeah, he overdosed on it. Okay, so it just
Back when he
completely-
was young, he probably could have done that and recovered fast enough. But I mean, I think it would have taken basically years to recover from that much serum to get his healing powers back. It just wouldn't have.
Right.
It wouldn't have happened. So he was basically a human at that point.
Actually, that reminds me. I think I was a little confused and a little disappointed with why he was deteriorating. It was weird because I thought maybe there was something a little bit more clever or more in depth to why he was actually deteriorating and getting old. But it was kind of just like, oh, it's the adamantium inside me is finally caught up, like it's poisoned my body, which seemed weird and kind of unclear throughout the entire movie until the end when he actually kind of says it. I think to the doctor. I think the doctor was like, "I can help you," and whatever. He's like, "No, you can't fucking help me," like I'm poisoned. I originally thought. Pause real quick. I originally thought that maybe he did something to himself to purposely invoke a sort of natural aging. Like I thought that he had poisoned himself. I thought that because of the tragedies that he had seen with the former X-Men and because of the atrocities that happened to the mutants, and it's kind of coming down to the end here. He's seen family members come and go. He's been in wars, it's fine. He's like, it's time to hang up the hat, right? I want to age and die just like anybody else. Maybe I never will. So I thought maybe he had put something inside him or had somebody put something inside him that would cause him to age, and kind of go that route. And then it was kind of weird when I was like, oh, it's just the adamantium that's starting to poison him, which totally makes sense. But I don't know. I was looking too much into that maybe.
What does Laura have in her then? Like, what are her claws made of?
I think it's adamantium as well.
It's the same type of adamantium. So she'll eventually get poisoning too, then, right?
She might have a different compound of it, but yeah, it's still adamantium. I believe it's all the same. But to Ella's point, he was doing a lot of drugs, and he was trying to speed up the process of everything because while he still has healing powers, it only goes for so long. So if he compounds bad things up top of bad things on top of bad things, and top of his adamantium, he's just gonna try and kill himself that way. So it was just making them all just go down a spiral essentially.
Yeah, and that begs the question too. If she's got adamantium in her, what's the longevity for her? Because Wolverine was implemented later on in life, like 100 years into his life or something. Finally, he became the Weapon X program. From if you're going like Old Man Wolverine, what is it? The comic book, whatever it's called. Anyways, if they put it in her at such a young age, one, how did her little body support the process? Because Wolverine barely made it through his Weapon X program, and then on top of that, is she gonna die midlife? Because of it. I wish we would have known more about how exactly that worked.
Her bones are not adamantium, though. I don't think, right? I think she was just getting hurt.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I read some of the later comics, but they don't really explain her origin too much in those. I know a little bit about her origin, but there's an entire series later on where she fights the dude, the new Dark Wolverine. She fights him for a long time after this. It's weird, but it makes sense that they kill him off in the movie. But she does exist later on, like late into her 40s, I believe. I don't know anything past that.
Wow. Okay.
That's what I love about like Marvel and DC and all these like superhero movies, because these questions are intriguing and they don't really have answers. I think one of my favorite things about this movie is how excited I get at the prospect of getting to know more about that universe specifically.
Honestly, like with the success of this movie, I wouldn't be surprised if they do a Laura movie and just like follow her after she escapes. And
like I said,
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
it would be awesome. I think they could do like a Juno thing. I don't know.
I like that. Yeah. It's like either that or you could do a movie of like what exactly did happen that they lost Jean Grey and
Dude, what if they did like Moonlight, but it's Laura? It's like 3 acts, each a different part, like point in her life or something.
It's just a teen movie. They're gonna go through a teen movie phase with her. Everything. Rom-com at some point. It's
not another X-Men movie.
Not another X-Men, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the universal. I think that's the most exciting thing after the movie's done, is to think about the idea that we will explore.
I'm definitely more of a DC freak, but I love the X-Men universe as far as Marvel goes. I do love it a lot. It's great.
All right, well, let's
yeah.
talk about the good stuff, like, or at least focus a little bit more on the things that we loved about the movie.
Acting,
Yes.
all the
Oh,
actors.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking, it was like Oscar-worthy performances from everyone.
I think it helped that they had a great script to work from too.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
everything was simple. Like, if you miss something in the movie, you basically missed it and you're not going to get it again. So I think that nothing was wasted. I think it was
Yeah.
all very clean cut and put together nicely.
Yeah, some of the dialogue between Professor X and Wolverine especially was really powerful and very well written. It was like when Wolverine kind of chastised Laura, and Professor X is like, I don't think Laura needs a lesson in how harsh the world is. And
Exactly.
it's like
Yeah.
this like Dan said, it was like, it's very simple, like it's just quick, it's to the point, like it's clever, and it's like, damn, it's like, all right, you're Professor X, like you might be old, but you still got it, old man. Like,
Yeah.
Dude, how about Stephen Merchant pulling out a fucking dramatic role? I did not expect him to be such a good actor. I knew he was funny and he could perform, but like he didn't have a lot of he wasn't the comic relief or anything. Like he had some funny lines, but he had a pretty
Caliban. Yeah.
Caliban.
Probably the most serious role.
Yeah.
He was excellent.
I felt bad for him, man.
Yeah.
Like, out of
He was
everybody,
the-
he was
he
like
was
the
dumb
guy
and getting
that
kicked
got the
around.
most shit,
Yeah,
man.
totally.
Like that poor dude he was there just trying to help. Gets caught up in this whole fucking story, gets left out in the fucking sun, blows himself up. Like this poor guy, man. Like out of everybody, my heart went out to him more than ever. But like, okay, but I don't know who he was though. Like I don't like, as far as Marvel superheroes are concerned.
He was
He's
in
another
Apocalypse.
X-Men.
He was in Apocalypse.
Yeah, he's in
too.
Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Apparently that's a weird story hole. I'm not sure. I didn't read the
Yeah,
article. They talked about it, but yeah, he's in a lot of the X-Men stuff. He's the tracker. He kind of helps Professor X for a long time, especially after he loses his Cerebro, and he's not able to find a bunch of mutants. So he hires him to come help him out. He's in there for a while. He's one of his main assistants, but he's also a super genius, which they kind of mention, but they don't go into too deeply. He's incredibly intelligent. And he also, I just got to say this, he went out like a boss. He destroyed.
Yes, he
like
did.
Gangster.
Yeah, that's tough to do, man. Especially when like the sun and like he is like your worst enemy. Like that's like not a way you want to go. It's not like drowning or something. It's like he's like a vampire. No, he was excellent, and I was actually really surprised at how well he did with the role, because like Dixon said, just kind of echoing it. I knew he's funny, but I didn't know if he had the chops for a role like that. But he did really well.
I mean, even just Hugh Jackman too. I think Hugh Jackman's lead role was excellent, and we're so used to seeing him as Wolverine. And to be honest, as Wolverine the character, he's been just iconic. I think there's no way we'll ever think about anybody else as Wolverine except for Hugh Jackman. But I think him portraying himself as an older, wiser. I mean, he actually had to act, I guess is what I'm trying to say, versus just basically having just the look of it. And I mean, he could have, the previous X-Men movies, he really didn't do any acting. And I think it was most apparent when, recently I saw one of the X-Men movies, which one was The Last Stand? The one where Dr. X explodes and, like Jean Grey kills him. Yeah. And I remember watching that and how he reacted to that. He literally just falls to like his knees and just goes, oh. Something like that.
They had a terrible. That was directed by Brett Ratner, and he doesn't know how to fucking direct actors.
Right.
To save lives.
You compare that, right, to the emotional scene they had with him this time. Especially with burying him and just all that. I just felt like Hugh Jackman, actually did an awesome job this time, and he's a great actor, so he actually got to use his acting ability in this movie.
I've always thought he was a natural for the part, but I never felt like he truly like nailed it until this movie. Like I always felt like, okay, you're probably the best we got, but it's not like I think that, oh my God, he's like, oh, he is the Wolverine. Like it's always kind of been like, all right, cool, I accept that, But in this movie, it's almost like this was him like at his prime. Like
the swan song.
Yes,
exactly.
yeah, man. He really, you can tell that he has been in this role, and he's a veteran of this role. He knows what to do now. He's like, he's great for it. He's great for it. He's got the right attitude, the right look, everything. And a tribute to the actor, If you guys get a chance, there's a clip actually of him doing some of the lines when he's running through
the
the
ADR
forest.
stuff.
Yeah, and he's literally in a room in like a t-shirt and some gym shorts or like gym pants or something, and he's watching the movie in front of him, and he's doing the sound effects for it as he's doing it. So like the scene starts, and he starts running in place like there in the studio, and then he's like, like, and he's like, and he's like, do it like he does, and it looks exhausting. Like it looks entirely exhausting. And then when he's done, he like looks over, he's like, oh hi.
He looks like he's having fun.
Man, nice to meet you. Yeah,
looks like he's having fun.
This is the guy who like knows what the fuck he's doing. He knows what kind of emotions he needs to pull him out because he's in the studio doing that scene in regular clothes, not as Wolverine. It's crazy. Yeah, if you get a chance to look at it or look it up, it's a great clip, and it's only like 45 seconds or something.
This is Hugh Jackman's last one, right?
Yes.
Yep.
That's
as much as
sad. That makes me
it
sad.
is.
Actually.
It's even sadder because you know they're gonna start rebooting it with a new actor and shit. And
it's like, the whole rumor about Ryan Reynolds wanting to come back for Deadpool, I'm like, it's just if you see this movie, you kind of say, well, you really don't want him back because this was like the perfect ending to everything. I thought it was fantastic. And to earlier point of his acting in the previous X-Men, I mean, the X-Men movies have kind of been plagued with terrible directors. They finally got a new one with First Class, and that was perfect. And then they replaced him again with the old director. And we're like, oh no, why? We had such a perfect movie. But he was also kind of the lead for X1. He was also kind of the lead for Days of Future Past. So it's like he had a lot of pressure on him for not being the title character. But I think he did a good job throughout his entire 16, 17 years of playing Wolverine. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, who could fill the shoes? Like, can you guys even think of anybody that could even be rebooted? Like, I'm going through my head right now.
That's not already a Marvel character. That's playing a Marvel character.
We need John Hamm. That's what we need.
John Hamm's like the same age as Hugh Jackman. I don't think that's happening.
I don't know why I just saw this funny John Hamm Wolverine in my head, and it made me giggle. I don't know who, like, I have no idea who would even be able to. I don't know, man. That's the one thing about superhero movies. It's great, but like to have these actors, but when somebody nails it, man, and they really get good at that role, it's so tough to break that immersion of this guy is Wolverine, or this guy is this person or whatever.
Tony Stark. I mean, it's the same thing. I think both. There's no way that those two actors can be replaced, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Tony Stark, Chris Evans as Captain America. Those are three characters that you're like, oh, these are. When they came out, I was like, oh my god, they did it. Like that's who it is. When I think of Robert Downey Jr., I was like, that was the perfect pick for him. Same thing with Hugh Jackman. And Patrick Stewart. Those are all, you can't replace them. There's no
not
way.
many bald guys in
Yeah, well, even in a more tragic sense, like Heath Ledger, man, like when he was Joker, like that was the most amazing Joker anyone had ever seen. And I think Jared Leto did an all right job.
Yeah.
He actually did a lot better than I thought he would, but it still wasn't anywhere near Heath Ledger Joker. I mean, that was just
they were
he won an Oscar for it.
It's fucking insane. But that's what I'm saying. Like once it's like when Heath Ledger died, among other sentiments, there was a sentiment that, man, we lost the best Joker we've ever seen. We'll never have him back again, and we're never going to see that. If we do, it's I don't know. It's unlikely we're going to see that caliber of acting for that specific role again. Probably in our lifetimes, but who knows? Maybe someone will come around and.
Well, what was cool about at least the Heath Ledger thing is that it just shows you that even though this is a superhero movie, you can still have incredible acting and be recognized for it too. In terms of just the Academy and things like that. That's what I loved most about that. One quick thing before we keep going is that we do take call-ins, guys. So if you do want to come in and join our discussion, have something to add to it or whatever questions, go ahead and hop on here. And Monkey Overlord is hanging out just to help you guys get set up. And then when you guys are ready, we'll just pull you on and you can Chat with us.
I'm literally looking at you, Eon of Aeon, because you are going nuts in the chat right
That's
now.
true.
Like,
That's
all
true.
this information. Like, just get on here and talk to us for a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because you've written so much. I'm just like, I'm
So,
learning.
Yeah. Well, speaking of like great actors and winning Oscars and stuff like that, do you think this might be one of the first comic book movies that actually might be Oscar worthy?
For Patrick Stewart, maybe.
Well, just as the movie as like best.
Oh, just
film.
the music as like best.
I
No,
don't think it's best movie quite up there. And again, it's just because it didn't quite grab me. Like if I would have been very emotionally, you're just emotionally touched at the end, then I could maybe have that sentiment. But for me, it just lacked that. So it must have happened to other people like me and Ello.
Totally fair. Yeah.
it's not like controversial enough. Like it's not about something in society. It's like nobody. I don't think anybody was gay. I don't think anything was about racism. Wasn't a big issue.
Exactly.
Like you have to have these things to like be part of the Oscars now.
Yeah.
Like if you
Gotta be political in some way.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a little political. I mean,
It was.
There was a black
X-Men's
family.
always
There was a black family.
This is true. There was a black family.
That got
And
murdered.
there was a racist part of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, right.
So
Right,
maybe, but the whole movie wasn't about it and making you feel
You're right.
fucking horrible about it. So yeah, you can always tell if it's going to be Oscar worthy, whether or not you felt like complete shit after watching that movie. Anywho's, man, I got to tell you guys, that first scene with Wolverine killing all those gang members at the beginning. I mean, I might be going out on a limb here, but I feel like I can say this with some confidence that every fucking single Wolverine fan has been waiting to see a scene like that.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
like it was like what we've always wanted, what we've all been waiting for, this realistic depiction of this dude with just superhuman strength, reflexes, claws, all that shit, just going berserk on some fuckers, man. And like it was exactly how I imagined it would be, and it was glorious. Just
It was.
like that first scene when he's done, I was just like my mouth was just like jaw to the floor, because it's like ever since I was a kid, man, I've always loved Wolverine. Even back in like the old, cartoon, like the like I loved Wolverine, man. Fuck, man, God, it was incredible. They shot it really well. It was intense.
Well, it had to be rated
it's
R
brutal.
because of scenes like that. I mean, that was probably one of the major scenes that was
We cut off a dude's arm, man. That was awesome.
cut off his arm, cut off a head too. I think he
I think he cut off a
skewered them
leg,
through his.
Oh
neck.
man,
Yeah,
every
that was-
which way,
it was really
every
good.
which
They
fucking
basically
way.
turned them into fucking steaks.
Well,
And
yeah.
Back of the head,
Oh,
through the
dude.
forehead,
Yeah, exactly, through the
up
forehead.
under
That's
the
what I was like.
chin.
I was
Yeah,
like
man.
looking over my son, and he's just like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Okay, he's
The
handling it
attention to
okay."
detail.
Yeah.
But attention to detail too, because he was the whole time he was trying to protect his car. He's like, that's just showing how grim the stakes are right now, because he's got to make money. He's
Don't
like, I
fuck
can't
up
ruin
my
my
limo,
car,
dude.
man.
God, and he was so reasonable with those guys.
Yeah, right.
Like it gets to a point where he freaks out and kills him, and I'm just like, man, I'd have done the same damn thing. Like listen, walk away, don't do this. They knock him down. He's getting kicked in the face and still being like, walk away, dude, walk away. Like then they get a gun and like try to shoot him and kill him. It's like, god damn, it's like, what do you, at a certain
All
point,
right.
you just got to be like, all right, here we go. But no, I thought it was amazing. This is a super exciting precedent that's being set by movies like Deadpool and Wolverine, is that we are starting to get into rated R territory. And for me, that is the best atmosphere for really, really great films.
As long as they don't make it rated R just for the sake of following a trend.
Which is
like
going to happen.
Yes.
it's gonna happen. That was
It
the
is.
problem. The problem with Deadpool being such a huge success was that studios were like, oh shit, we can make money with R-rated movies again, like back in the 90s and the 80s, Like we haven't been able to do that in a while. So now that's when when they said Logan was R, like right after that fucking first weekend with Deadpool, I was like, oh god, you're not just gonna CG some blood in there, like. But apparently they'd already filmed it. Like it was already planned.
We saw the numbers. This was like the highest
broke
grossing
records.
rated R film in such a long time.
Yeah.
They obviously know there's money there. Yeah. But no, I'm afraid of that too. They're gonna make some bad rated R comic book movies coming up soon.
When Spider-Man's
yeah.
rated R, you know it's overboard. Okay?
but when it's rated R, it opens the film up to so much more opportunities. So as far as I'm concerned, like as far as storytelling is
Well,
concerned,
comics
too.
these days are written for adults now. Like there's no
In a
like
lot of ways,
they write kids at comics too, but I'm 26 years old. I read comics every week, and they're definitely written for me. So it makes sense. It makes sense.
Well, it's just like video games, right? Like video games as well as comics has always been viewed for the longest time as a something a child does. Kids read comics, kids play video games because kind of initially that's who read those things and played those things. But those people have grown older, they've grown up, and they haven't stopped loving their video games, they haven't stopped loving their comic books. And now we've got 50, 60-year-old people who love comic books, and it's a much bigger crowd. So the evolution of comics probably couldn't have done anything else. And now we're here at the cusp of starting to get into rated R movies, starting to get into more adult themes. We have a lot of history with other comics that we have to thank for stuff like this, like Watchmen. Watchmen is a comic book, just a graphic novel. Like, got to pay some tribute to this. Like, this is a the end of a long line of trying to get this out there in the capacity that it is. But I'm excited just because, again, I love gritty. I like realism. I think it's silly when you have Wolverine and he stabs a guy and blood doesn't come out, or the choreography can only do so much, with those kind of limitations. So it's exciting to just let him go. All right, it's rated R. He's got adamantium. This shit will go through people like butter. He doesn't give a fuck. He's gonna kill people. So yeah.
All right, we got a caller. We've got Aeon, and he's ready to go. All right, I'm gonna pull you on. I'm gonna pull you on. Here we go. Yo, Aeon, what's up?
Not too much. Hello.
Hey, welcome to the show, man.
Hey.
So,
You there?
yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, so I mean, you've been definitely had a lot to add in the Twitch chat, so I figured we'd pull you on. Any thoughts or comments you want to make?
I did want to touch on something regarding the origin. I noticed that I was one of them, said that they didn't know too much about her origins, and I was actually going to go over that a little bit if that was cool. Because there's some really interesting parallels. In the comics, she's born as a clone, as in the movies, but the difference is that she wasn't intended to be female. The geneticist in charge could not make a male one, so she ran rogue and made a female, and they forced her to be impregnated with it, or they'd kill the embryo. So that was the first bit of dark. Yeah. Wow. After she was born, they forced the kid and the mother to be controlled in how they interacted, what they interacted about, how they were trained. She was trained with a trigger scent. Anyone doused with it, she kills. She just obliterates. She just mutilates. Her first kill was her sensei, who had taught her martial arts. They covered his sword in it, so when he pulled out the sword, she ripped him to shreds.
Wow. Okay.
Then they forced her ability to grow early, which is something Craig Kyle, the creator, wanted to touch on, but they didn't do in the comics. They forced her to undergo gamma radiation to force her mutation out early. So her claws came busting out of her hand and her feet way early. But as a result, her growth was supposed to be stunted, was his original intent, which they didn't follow through with. And afterwards, Xander Rice, who was a young psychopath, decided to kick everyone out of the operating room, got rid of the anesthesia, and ripped her claws out of her hands and her feet one by one, covered it in adamantium, shoved them right back in one by one. The self-harm scene that you see in the video, in the movie, that's done in the comics all the way up through X-Force. She is so emotionally stunted, she cuts herself constantly. When she's a prostitute, she's cutting herself constantly. It's all she knows.
Oh, she's a prostitute at one point? Wow.
Her first comic introduction was in Nyx #3, and she's there through Nyx #7, and she is a prostitute at her lowest of lows for a pimp. And she defends some new mutant characters from the pimp at the end with killing. But she's this really interesting character of she's trained to be a killer. She murders a president live on news. She she murders him, his entire family, about 30 press corps, and some of his guards. And then escapes Captain America by hiding as a lone survivor.
That sounds like a cool movie.
Right there.
That sounds like an awesome
Plenty
movie.
dark with that.
Yeah, exactly. You can make 3 movies.
He spent the next 5 years he spent the next 5 years hunting her as a result of that.
Well, let me ask you a question. Are you happy with the portrayal of the character in the film?
She is perfect. I was worried when I heard that Laura was going to be in this, that she was going to be bad. I was worried that she was going to be like one of those X2 type bad portrayal. Perfect. And if they go Craig Kyle's route and keep her young and stunted growth and have it pick up shortly after this movie, I'm a bit hesitant, but I'm eager to see because she is a phenomenal Laura. But if they wait a few years for her to grow up a bit and do like a teenage Laura, her faces, her movements, everything was fantastic. And apparently everyone who's seen her audition tape has had nothing but raves for her. She was an 11-year-old at the time of the audition, and she was jumping off of shit in her house and asking, "Can I improvise?" And doing all this other shit that they're gonna put on the Blu-ray. Yeah, she was
Didn't she like bruise the people she was auditioning with?
Yeah, she bruised Hugh Jackman on their first in-person practice together. Right. And at one point, and this is one of my favorite things learning about her, they were doing that yelling scene in the truck near the end after the doctors. And they spent about 40 minutes doing that scene. And at the end, at one scene, I don't think it's in the movie, he yells, "Shut the fuck up." And she socks him in the face. And then he gets out of the car and he goes to the mother. He's like, "Listen, I have an 11-year-old. I am so sorry." She's like, "Oh, it's okay. She called you a cunt in Spanish."
That's good, man. Oh,
no,
yeah.
she was great. I mean, even her voice and how she screamed and everything, it was just perfect.
I was a bit worried with her being specifically Mexican and Spanish in the movie, because in the comic she's more Caucasian and Asian looking, but she does well, and she's ambiguously brown enough in the cartoon that she's introduced in that I can accept it. And I think she's going to be a good successor to Logan, especially if they follow the comics and make her the new Wolverine.
It's interesting. I like I said, again, the most exciting thing about this is the universe. I think, and where they can go with it. You know, they can go all over the place with it now, and I think I would like to see definitely more of that. But anywho, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
I did want to mention something about the universes, because this is something that you guys mentioned, the timelines. It's a bit confusing because of Marvel, but technically this is old universe Logan in a new universe. There's an official designation and a fan designation, and the official for the old movies, which is everything before Days of Future Past, it's called 10,005. So the mind of the Logan from that time is in TRN 414, and he's in the body of the TRN 414 Logan. So everything that Logan remembers from the old universe is in his mind still. He doesn't know anything about the 50 years between Days of Future Past and the end of the movie. So technically everything that happened in the old movies never happened. I think the storyline is supposedly between Days of Future Past and Logan. I think one of the directors said that it was Magneto himself who did the adamantium in this movie, although that's a bit confusing considering, some.
Oh no, this is all very clear and very simple.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's a T1, so I might as well be doing football.
No problem.
I thought he was saying it was at one point.
TRN stands for transitional numbering, basically. It's what the wiki and the fan bases use to keep track of any games or movies or comics that haven't been giving an official Marvel number.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's really cool about Logan is you can take it as its own separate universe, like Jackman thought. You can take it as a sequel to Days of Future Past, good storyline. You can take it as a whatever, because it's far enough. I would have liked it farther, but it's far enough in the future, combined with being vague enough. You don't need to know any of the previous movies. You don't need to know the comics. They make nods to pre-timeline. They make nods to the new timeline. They just try and give you little Easter eggs for the fans. They don't try and lock themselves in.
Right.
Okay, that's it.
All right.
let us let you go, man.
Yeah, we're gonna let you go.
That's
But
awesome.
thanks for
you're
for
welcome.
joining us and
Thanks for coming,
giving
dude.
us those like knowledge bombs, man.
You're
Really
welcome.
awesome.
That's awesome. Very
Yeah.
All right, see ya.
Well, if we ever wanted a living Wikipedia page,
Exactly. If we
At
ever
some
need to know
point,
the
yeah.
backstory, holy smokes!
Well, at some point, I thought he was calling him a Terminator at one point. I was very confused.
That's what I was like. Is he calling audibles and like football at this? Like, I don't know what's happening. You know, another thing that we
awesome.
talked about that kind of correlates from last week to this week is the idea of films taking more time to explore like mental illnesses and kind of take that into account. Now, one of the cool things about the movie that I thought was super cool was, you know, you don't really think about mental deterioration when it comes to Professor X, or at least I didn't. It's not something I really considered. Professor X has always seemed like the old guy, you know, like at least the oldest guy, or, you know, unless you're, you know, going in Days of Future Past or whatever with the young, you know, Professor X. He's always been the old guy, so you don't really think of him as ever getting to be the super old guy, you know, and what that might actually entail, and what, you know, kind of deterioration can happen with the mind, you know, Alzheimer's, dementia, and how this might actually affect his powers or the safety of people around him. It's just not something that I've really ever explored thinking about, and it makes a lot of sense. I think it gives a lot of dramatic tension in a very natural and organic way, and I felt like it was really, really, really eye-opening to see that possible future for Professor X. Yeah. I guess if that makes sense, because again, it's just so it's unique.
They summed it up perfectly, right? With that one line in the movie where it's just like, you know, where they were convincing Caliban to work with them, and they described it as, you know, basically mental illness with the most powerful mind in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean, he had to die. You know, he's like, he had to die, right? Even just for the safety of humanity. But it was interesting that he could even control his seizures, though. In Vegas, it sounded like he could control it, or at least he initiated it because they were trying to take Laura.
He probably knew how to trigger something.
Yeah.
To go wrong.
Yeah, he still has some control over his powers. We see that in the horse scene, right? Like, he still has it. You know, to what degree, you know, not really sure, but, or, you know, when he can control, when he can't. But I mean, at that point, I believe that he wasn't on his medication, or he wasn't taking his medication very well, or it was spaced out, and he was able to do that with the horses, you know. So, you know, who knows, man? But yeah, it's like walking around, like they said, with like, it's a warhead, right? He's just,
he can kill everybody.
When Logan's leaving the hotel, he tells Laura, "Hey, take these. He needs these pills in 2 hours or something like that." Yeah. But we don't know if he actually took them, right? So I wonder if that could have happened before the 2 hours were up or something like that.
Yeah,
I thought that was very interesting.
Another thing I loved about the scene where he does kind of have the seizure, trigger the seizure, or whatever, to kind of save everybody, and everybody in that hotel is all frozen and everything, is the aftermath. I fucking love it, because it's a rated R movie. Now we can actually have a realistic fucking scene. Not like in Superman, where like in Superman you can level a whole goddamn city and there's not one dead body or somebody laying anywhere. It's like literally just buildings and buildings crumble to the ground and nobody's hurt. But like in this, you know, because it's rated R, because they have more freedoms, you know, when he's leaving, it was interesting because the older that the people were, it seemed like the harder time they were having with what happened. Like even some of them looked dead. You know, like, you know, I think they even said there was a certain amount
they
of,
were dead,
but
like
it looked like the old people.
Like
yeah, 7 dead. But it's like the old people, and you could see like the younger people were kind of getting up and moving around, and like the old people were just on their backs, you know, like still all fucked up and stuff. And you saw that it was a cause and effect. It was a reaction. It wasn't convenient. It wasn't, you know, brushed aside. It always feels so weird for me in these superhero movies that these big, you know, fights happen and this destruction happens. You just don't ever see the collateral damage, you know. And they cover that in the comics really well, you know, like, oh, we saved these people, but we killed these people in the process, kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
You know, but
they also had like a super beautiful moment in that scene. I just wanted to touch on it before we left it. Like the father-daughter kind of connection too, where they're both fighting through the seizure, and she hands him the syringe, and they have this little connection there. I was like, oh my god, that looks so good.
Yeah.
That hotel sequence was fucking amazing.
They were like the only two people that could even not only just survive that, but even be somewhat functional during all that craziness. That was really, really cool.
Yeah, there was something jarring about the way they did it. It almost made me uncomfortable, like visually, to keep watching. Like the way everybody was like shaking. It's almost like I felt like it was in my head, like there was some kind of like pressure.
Like watching Legion.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like they did, the visuals are so good that it's almost like you can imagine pretty well how they feel, you know, like paralyzed in pain, like under pressure, like like this kind of thing, you know, like, I don't know. I think they did a really good job with that. And I knew that because it was like painful to watch. Like it was hard for me to watch. I was like getting a headache, like looking at it. But that was, it looked great. It looked, you know, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have wanted to see it any other way.
Yeah, the scenes with the three of them, just, you know, with Dr. X and Wolverine and Laura, definitely the best. Just, I think that was probably the best time frame of the entire movie. And just having that kind of grandfather feel, and even Dr. X and Wolverine, that's what I kind of alluded to it before when he died, but just even leading up to it, you know, Wolverine is his son. You know, he really is his son during this entire thing, and taking care of it. I mean, you can see in parallels even just real life, you know, like eventually our parents are going to get to the point where we have to take care of them like that. And all the previous, you know, X-Men movies, it's always been the opposite. You know, Dr. X has always been that mentoring, that father figure guiding Logan whenever he would get lost and all that stuff. Now, you know, you actually see it, you know, transform into a real life type of situation. And, you know, that's why, I don't know, I think that was probably the most emotional part for me, is just their relationship.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because even though Wolverine's 100 years older than him, he still was super immature before they met, and then they met and his life totally changed. So, but yeah, throughout the entire movie, there was a theme of 3 generations, even though none of them were by blood related, a couple of them by genetics, and then, you know, obviously this long bond of brotherhood, or at least the mentorship, was the 3 whole generations throughout the entire movie. And I think that was beautiful. I like that.
Yeah, no, you know, it's a full circle kind of thing, because not only was Wolverine immature, but he was dealing with a lot of emotional scars from the, you know, the Weapon X program and stuff, I believe, when they met. So he helped him through, you know, depression and mental illness, and when he was mentally not his best. So now full circle, you know, Professor X not his mental best, and Wolverine's there to you know, do his best for him, especially in such a delicate situation, you know. but you know, how could he leave him? You know, how can you leave this guy? He needs to be protected. He needs to be taken care of. He needs to be helped, you know. But you're basically, you know, like you said in the movie, he's like, you're waiting for me to die, you know. And that's terrifying and frightening. And, you know, we're gonna have to, like Chanman said, we're gonna have to do that with our own parents one day. But, you know, I just feel like in the movie there's just so much more at stake, you know, just because the sensitive nature of his abilities. So it was a cool dynamic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so why don't we wrap up at least with the question: was this the best superhero movie you guys have ever seen?
It's definitely the most unique and most grounded and adult. It had the most integrity out of any superhero movie I've ever seen.
It doesn't have to be Marvel or DC, like any superhero.
I'm gonna say yes, and for me, it comes down to convenience. I hate convenience in movies, and superhero movies tends to really ride on convenience, just like the comics do. You know, these kind of 1 in a million situations, like I guess for example, like Thor 2, you know, like the Dark World thing. And I know you guys are laughing before I even fucking say anything, but like that movie literally has a scene where he gets like banished to a random planet, goes in a random ass cave, and it just happens to teleport him back to Earth. The guy, he jumps on a subway at some point.
Right.
It's like these convenience things, or like in Superman, where, you know, Lois Lane is watching Zod and Superman fall from the sky, and she sees them land in Grand Central Station, right? Or at least land somewhere. And then within like 2 minutes of the scene, she's there. It's like, how? This whole town is fucking destroyed. Like, you're a mile away. Like, how do you get here in 2 minutes? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's this convenience factor. But this movie really took its time and really was careful to show the steps, right? So like they just weren't ever just in new clothes, you know, like they show them buying them, you know, they show them getting a car, they show them taking all these, you know, all these steps that aren't even necessarily interesting, but I think lend a lot to the movie and the storytelling, that hey, we're just not here conveniently, hey, this doesn't just work suddenly, or this, you know, was a Deus Ex effect, you know, that, or, you know, Ex Machina, whatever, I don't know what it's fucking called, but you get what I'm saying, right? You know, like that like convenience factor. So I would say this is the best movie, but that's a personal opinion based on the fact that this wasn't so convenient and so kind of like weird and outlandish. So that's my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel. Dan, what do you think? What do you think?
I think this falls number 2 in my book. Just because, so I, as a script writer, and I studied this as my bachelor's degree in college was communication in film. And when we talk about scripts, I think it was near perfect, but you guys showed me a lot of things I actually didn't think about today. I had to put it number 2 because of the discussions. But I think number 1 is Guardians of the Galaxy. No, you're totally fine.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Wow. Okay.
So Guardians is probably my favorite too. It's
as a script,
wow.
Guardians is near perfect, and Logan is just below it. While okay, here it is. Everybody liked Guardians of the Galaxy. I guarantee 5% of the people that watched the movie had no idea who the Guardians of the Galaxy even were, because it was the worst comic in the world. It was a terrible comic book, but they made a great movie out of it. So I mean, hey, what can you say? I think they did a good job.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to take a like in the Rocket Raccoon.
Very
hard for me to take. It's very hard for me to take that character seriously. but in Guardians of the Galaxy, I get it. It worked out. It was fine. I agree. That was, I would say it's a totally different flavor. It's almost like comparing a drama to a comedy almost.
Totally. Yeah. True.
And I think that it's definitely, I think Guardians of the Galaxy is more fun. For sure.
Absolutely.
Like the lightheartedness, the music. It's like,
that's why it's such a blockbuster too. Yeah.
That's why I had to point out the script aspect to it, because if we want to compare comic book movies, it's seriously like comparing a drama to a comedy, because that's what it was, and they're 2 completely different realms of movies. But yeah, no, I think they're both, honestly, they might even be tied for first, but I would still put Guardians over, because I've seen it more than once. I have to see movies like 3 or 4 times before I can make a real decision.
Yeah.
And I've only seen Logan once. So.
What about you, Diction?
I already said.
Oh, did you? Oh.
Yeah.
It was?
Why weren't you listening to me?
What do you mean? We went to Dan. We went to Dan second. Oh, okay.
No, Dick definitely said he agreed. Yeah,
okay, you agreed. Okay. Yeah, for me, for me, a non-DC and Marvel, movie is still probably number 1 for me. I mentioned it last week. I think Unbreakable is still the best superhero movie for me generally. But if we're talking about just,
it would be better if the twist happened at the end of the second act, and then the third act was them having. I'm serious. Like, that movie's pretty fucking great, but it dragged on, and they should have had the twist earlier, and then some sort of like elaborate scheme where Bruce Willis has to stop tragedies from happening.
I feel you.
Yeah,
I feel you on that.
I mean, in terms of Marvel stuff, I mean, Dark Knight's up there for me too. It's that one. Even Spider-Man 2, believe it or not. Spider-Man 2 actually, it actually had a very big, it had a huge impact on me, that movie, for whatever reason, like emotional scenes, at least in that movie. So I would say Logan's definitely top 3. But it's really close with a lot of those movies, right?
Now that you mention Dark Knight, I feel like that is probably up there for me too. The second one with Heath Ledger, like I was talking about earlier. I think that's probably tied for first. I don't know. Probably day to day, I could go back and forth feeling one way or another.
Yeah.
I like The Dark Knight, but I don't like the way Christopher Nolan films fight scenes. He doesn't know how to do it.
I don't like,
and it bothers the shit out of me.
I just don't like.
They are terrible fight scenes. They're really.
There's that huge plot hole where like the Joker throws Rachel out the window during that party with the wealthiest people in Gotham, and he jumps down and saves her, and then the scene ends, and they don't show, like, the Joker's there with his goons with, like I said, the wealthiest people in Gotham, and we're just supposed to assume that he was like, drats, I didn't get fucking Harvey Dent. All right, let's go, guys.
Well,
that bothered the shit out of me.
Yeah.
It is the Joker. He could have just been like, "Well, see you guys later," and it would. But I get that's that thing, that convenience factor, right?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
This is just cleared up for no reason, and it's never mentioned. And it's like, okay, I guess that's that. The movie continues.
All right. Well, you guys want to talk about it next week?
Yeah.
That time. All right.
Let's do it.
So next week, and those of you wondering what we're talking about, what we do every single week is we talk about a movie like we did about Logan, and then we give you guys homework for next week so you guys can get a chance to go and watch whatever we're going to do or read whatever we're going to do, and then come back and just join us in our discussion. So next week, we are going to be doing Beauty and the Beast.
And not because, listen, we picked this before.
We picked this before
before
the nudies.
Emma Watson news story recently. Anywho, I'm excited. I'm excited about it because I think it's something that most people on this, like, we've done a lot of like superhero movie guy thing, yeah. But like Beauty and the Beast may be a little bit different from our comfort zone. But Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Disney movies.
Yep.
I feel I have a big connection to this movie just because Cora's so hot and I'm so not. And it's like, she really loves me. I'm just a hairy beast. It's like I'm watching my relationship. It's like I'm watching my relationship unfold. Like her father is a merchant.
God.
He stole from me. It's a whole thing. But no, I'm excited about it. I think I'm hoping it's not too silly live action.
I'm nervous about it because I hold Beauty and the Beast in very, very high regard. So it worries me. I think it's looked beautiful. Everything I've seen trailer wise and everything. So I can't wait to see how they end up doing, or if they even do anything different. That's the thing I'm mostly interested. If it's just like they're gonna have any kind of derivative aspects to it.
Got a great.
Do you think
cast.
they'll keep? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you think they'll keep the original music?
Yeah, Alan Menken is. I know doing the
I'm
music
pretty
again. So
Yeah.
Because that song that plays when he transforms is like one of the most epic fucking
Well, actually,
songs.
I think it was Tim Rice and Alan Menken originally, right? But I think Alan Menken was part of the original. I know he did Aladdin.
I swear I can listen to the transformation song and I'm just like, I don't know, I get goosebumps, man. It gets to me. I don't know what it is about it.
Yeah, that part's
Yeah,
awesome.
man,
God,
it's
I love
good.
that
It's a
fucking
good song.
dude.
Yeah, it's a good
Crazy.
fucking song. So I hope to see these songs remastered. I think it's going to be exciting. And our special guest is going to be the MAV show.
Yeah.
So MAV show is going to be joining us next week to discuss it. So we'll have a nice feminine point of view on some of this.
First
so hopefully
time.
we don't get in here. Yeah, first female on here.
We're
Yeah.
not such a sausage fest after all.
I feel like we're gonna watch this and be like, man, feelings, romantic comedy, romance, and then it's like she's gonna be there to give us that nice, well, this is how I felt,
Yeah.
God, I'm sexist, but I just feel like we need a woman for this. What? Why are you laughing, Chan?
Yeah.
The audience understands what I'm saying.
Yes.
We need a feminine touch for Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, I agree.
I don't feel like I connected with Belle as a character. Like Beauty and the Beast is never about Belle for me, except for I thought that she was kind of hot and I felt weird about it. Okay.
Oh, man.
There were many hot women in my life growing up. All right, I was homeschooled.
All right. Well, let's wrap up. It's been a fantastic episode, and Dano, has been awesome having you on. But you got any shout outs you want to give?
Coming, man.
Got any shout outs you want to give out?
As for like where to find me and stuff like that.
Yeah, where
or-
can I find you? Yeah.
This is your
Sell out
chance
mode.
to sell out.
I
mode.
mean, no, I want to say thanks first of all for having me on. This has been fantastic. If there was a movie I wanted to talk about more, it's this one. This one's great. But you can find me here on twitch.tv/Danotage, Danotage, live 6 nights a week. I'm usually on like basically right after, if you guys are fans of these guys, right after Diction and right before Ellohime. So I'm in the late night shift. So yeah, so I play lots of strategy games, just kind of hang out and have some fun. We talk about movies all the time, so come by and just chat. Yeah,
Cool.
Awesome. Diction?
Hi, you can find me at twitch.tv/eMyDiction1. I'll be streaming later tonight. Some Stick Shards of Darkness just came out. Looks pretty cool.
Nice. Hello.
For that, I'm sleeping because I'm fucking sick.
Yeah. I'm Ellohime. This is my channel. If you guys want to find any of my social media, you guys can find it below on the channel. My mods will post in the chat too. I stream usually early in the morning, 4 a.m. Eastern, pretty much every other day, a little bit more than that. Yeah, last thing I did was stream Power Rangers and did a drinking game for it, which was incredibly fun.
Yes.
But it can't, dude, my physical recovery on that stream has been a couple days and I'm still don't feel I'm not a young man anymore. I watched some of the clips.
Old man Ello.
Well, it got posted on live stream fails, like one of my videos.
Really?
Yeah, of me adding music to the Megazord thing, but it was like a good. I don't know why it was on live stream fails because like it was like, check this out, it's awesome. And I don't know why I'm on there, but I guess it's somebody tagged it as loud. So I guess because I'm being loud in it that it's a fail. I don't know. But yeah, a bunch of people watched that. We had a fucking hell of a good time. But I think tomorrow morning we're gonna get back into something. I don't know, some video game. I'm waiting for Battlegrounds. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
They're doing squads
be
next
sick.
too. You can do 4 players.
Yeah. Well, it's released on the 23rd, right? Like early access or whatever. So,
Yeah.
It's a
God,
week,
man.
week from today.
Anywho. Anyway, so
good
ChanMan, tell us about yourself. What are you up to?
You can find me on all my shows. I do a bunch of different podcasts and talk shows and game shows, all mostly pertaining to Overwatch and Hearthstone, with the exception to this. So if you're interested in any of those games, go check my stream out at twitch.tv/ChanManV, and all my show VODs, including this one, are all on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/ChanManV. So check out some of our old episodes. We've reviewed probably some of your favorite TV series and movies, I'm sure, along the way. We've done 20 of these so far. And if you like to listen to podcasts on the way to, like audio podcasts on the way to work or whatever, you can find us on iTunes also, as well as Google Podcasts. So look us up there. Leave us a review too if you like the show. And that's going to be it, guys, for this week. So for Danotage, Eat My Diction, Ellohime, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Boy.